Yes, so Hairless here. Hope you're all having a wonderful festive season, and today we have a double feature of Pentatonix. I tried this out last year with Coventry Carol and I'll Be Home for Christmas, 2 songs in one video. There's simply so much Pentatonix Christmas music to get through. I feel like I kind of have to do it again this year. So we have, as voted for by our lovely patrons and YouTube members, O Come Emmanuel and Angels We Have Heard on High. If you want to vote on such polls and get access to additional Pentatonix content, which there will be some of that today, then head on over and become a member. You will not regret it. Both of these songs are from the Avi era. Now, typically, like I did last year, I'd want them both to be Yule log audio songs, i.e. they have no video. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that Angels We Have Heard on High does have a video, and it has 65 million views. It's a popular one, so we'll start with O Come Emmanuel, and then we'll do Angels We Have Heard on High afterwards.
Oh come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel.
Ooh. Immediate harmonic change. I was literally just thinking how they've gone with a simple harmonic foundation here, just changing between one chord and then another chord, keeping it very much in a traditional style, not necessarily the same harmonic progression that we get in the traditional carol. The origin of this carol is unknown. I've done a couple of other videos on O Come Emmanuel, such as Peter Hollins, a more modern take through Tommy Prophet, and yeah, this is a carol with a rich history. We've just started, of course, on Pentatonix. I know from many of the other songs I've heard them do, their arrangements, that they start off a bit simpler and then things get a bit more complicated. Being a Christmas carol, I don't know if they'll do that, if they'll want to stay traditional. But yeah, that harmonic change is really nice. Whilst we're here, Avi has the melody, it looks like, which means logically Scott should be taking over the bass, and therefore it's Scott's part with that nice harmonic change. The rhythms are cool. We have this almost like a militaristic clapping, dum da 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 dum, really reminding me of shepherds or the 3 wise men walking across vast open lands, and the almost bell tones that we get in Kirsty and Mitch.
And ransom captive Israel.
Yeah, nice.
That mourns in lonely exile until the Son of God appears. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel.
As I'm doing 2 videos in one, I naturally can't spend as much time speaking about each song. I'd like to. YouTube, unfortunately, at least with my videos, really does not like longer videos. So there's not much point in making like a 30-40 minute video if it's just not going to show it to anyone. So my style today might be a little bit different. Maybe I won't play the song for as long, and then I won't do as long of an analysis break. What we just heard though, some of my favorite parts, Kevin's wind coming in the background and really complimenting Avi's. He has these little cracks in his voice, almost like a defeated sound or just very delicate, sensitive sound. Very airy, and previously I have always pointed out the synergy, the connection between Kevin and Avi, often when they're like stressing the same beat, one in percussion, one as a bass. Dum. Here there's a different kind of connection. almost more like spiritual or emotional or something. I really like the arrangement, the softness of it, the bell tones, dum, ba-da-dum, all the way in the background. They're definitely being a bit more funky and exploring jazzier, scrunchier harmonies.
Rejoice.
Scott is really loving it down there with these dissonant bass notes. When you have a dissonant note in the bass, usually, at least with Pentatonix, it will be much more obvious, much more dissonant, because Kirsty and Mitch, like we always say, their voices just work so well together. They, especially in the more baby tonics or earlier Pentatonix era, it wasn't uncommon for their parts to really have a role of filling out the harmony compared to some of the more modern arrangements where everything's just a bit more like woo. And yeah, we can just really hear these scrunchy chords. Overall as well, the melody's there, the harmonic progression is there generally speaking, but they are definitely throwing in funky chords quite frequently.
Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee.
Kirsty's part there, for example, she's teasing with these suspensions, which kind of resolve, but then by the time they've resolved, we have a new funky chord that we're not expecting. Every chord almost is something that I could point out, so I won't. But yeah, I really like this arrangement so far.
Oh come, great Lord of might, unto thy tribes on Sinai's high.
There's the major resolution.
In ancient times once gave the law, in majesty on cloud and rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Oh,
I was expecting another major resolution there on Israel. So now I'm thinking, what's going to happen next? Just a few things. I was listening out while trying to listen out to everything. The militaristic drum clapping style came in, dum, 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 and then I was thinking, oh, well, what else is happening in the percussion? And it's almost like this stamping. I can imagine Kevin stamping. I don't know exactly how the sound is being produced, but at the bottom, like a bass pedal. And we're in common time. Bum, bum, bum. And we do have hemiolas thrown in there. I'll show you an example. One, let's listen out for the bass pedal. And then just before that, we had an example in Kirsty and or Mitch, where we suddenly think 1, 2, 3 instead of 1, 2, 1, 2. Listen out for that at the bottom. Dum, 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 dum. And just before that, now we listen out for the middle parts, Kirsty and Mitch. Dum, da, 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 dum. Subtle, contrasting what we had even just before that, which again are more of these bell tones, but in common time.
Ancient times once gave the law.
And then da da dum. An idea is introduced. We've had these ideas introduced at the beginning, but now the arrangement just seems so much full. It's such a natural growth, not just on a whole arrangement level and how much sound we're hearing, but on an individual line level, little ideas, little motifs that they're reusing but just developing slightly. We see them do it all the time, but in this arrangement especially, I can imagine it's more challenging because they're very much trying to keep a traditional sense, I think, for this carol, even though the harmony is very untraditional in many ways. Let's see what they do to finish this one.
Israel.
That's where I was expecting the major resolution. No, instead we get a suspension. I was not expecting a ghostly Mitch. And everyone else for that matter. there we go. There we go. An arrangement completely held together by the incessant sounds bad, but, you know, very consistent claps as well, a bit less severe than a typical beatboxing sound. And this idea that they came back to after that ghostly section in parallel harmony, of course, between the parts. So simple, so effective. Parallel harmony like that, even though it sounds perhaps a bit antiquated or outdated, archaic. Ultimately, I think that's in a way what they're going for subtly with this song, O Come Emmanuel, a very old traditional carol. And I'm curious about the ghostly section, because for the second half of it, when you then had Kirsty and Mitch coming in a kind of call and response, we're now to more than 4 vocal lines, not including Kevin. So it would be cool to see if they've done this live, to see how they did that there. I don't know what they would do in that situation. Yeah, really nice. It's always great to discover these new versions of carols, especially when you've done videos on other versions of them. It's amazing, these artists' creativity, isn't it, that they have. No video as well makes you focus on the audio a little bit more. But now, Angels we have heard on High. I've done one other version of this carol before. That was Home Free. I thought their arrangement was phenomenal. I think it's one of the highest ratings I've ever given, at least for carols. I think I've only given Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy by Pentatonix the same or similar, and of course Carol of the Bells, Pentatonix is the highest. So yeah, I love this carol. I will definitely be a sucker for a good arrangement. Let's see what they do with it. Oh, and in the introduction to this video, I did mention there will be some extra Patreon content. There is a live performance in a green room or something of Pentatonix doing this, so we will be watching that one afterwards. So after this, if you want to see a little bit more Christmas Pentatonix, then head on over to the link in the description.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains.
Angels we have heard.
Interesting. A repeat of the first lines or verse, and it's been modernized with the percussion coming in. 52 seconds in, let's go over a few things from that introduction. Really, really cool, really nice. Just like we heard with O Come Emmanuel, they're really utilizing the wind sounds in there. Very Christmassy. It does just remind me of an open desert that the 3 wise men and everyone else would have been walking across. They're not shying away from the jazzy harmony immediately, which is a statement for a carol we have heard in some of their other arrangements of carols, that they start off traditional and then progress to the more jazzy harmony. Home Free did a similar thing in their arrangement, which I really love. There, Kevin. That was his line, a little trill in there, modernizing it a little bit, but that chord, he has the real juice of that chord. It's kind of it's the feel of F major, but Avi is on a D at the bottom, so transforming it into a D minor 7 chord, F major, D minor, mix them together, and then Kevin's note right in the middle there. They're not singing every single one of these notes. There aren't enough of them for that. It's more like, or even. But yeah, we've got some juice in there, you know, some good filth. I've not used that term in a while. Lovely contrary motion there, and the inner parts very, very jazzy, just taking us on a completely different harmonic path or roller coaster than we might expect.
Echoing their joyous.
Interesting bell sounds in the background, a constant tingling, really, really high up. If you can't hear it, maybe use headphones. I can't quite figure out what that sound is. Anyway, then Kevin comes in with the beatbox, Scott on the melody, perhaps a bit less traditional now. Let's find out.
Angels we have heard on high, singing sweetly through the night, and the mountains in reply, echoing their brave delight. Gloria in excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo.
Hello?
Excelsis Deo.
What is that? So the harmony there would be, and then sort of, but we've got here with, I think the 7th was in there, and then on this chord we do have, or we did have that at the bottom. I just had to listen again, and then the rest of the chord is sort of maybe even poor. And I was about to pause there anyway to talk about some other things which I have now forgotten, and that is the beauty and the curse of just having really unexpected harmony. If you're kind of locking in and you focus a lot on that kind of stuff, it just throws you off in a good way. You know, you just don't know what is coming. I remember what I wanted to talk about, and it's Avi. Avi is just so good. If you enjoy these videos or find them helpful, please consider supporting me. Patreon has a bunch of exclusive benefits, behind the scenes videos, additional reaction content, Q&A videos, and more. For a one-time donation, you can donate me a hot chocolate at the Buy Me a Coffee link, or become a YouTube member for these groovy emojis and membership badges. And a huge thank you to these lovely people on the screen now.
Through the night, and the mountains in reply.
It's very low, a bit low for me, but you know, he's giving us some rhythmic injections. And then, of course, he's jumping all over the place like a walking bass. Boom, 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 boom. Very fun line. And then on the repeat, instead of jumping around, he falls simply chromatically. So kind of inherently, it's therefore not simple, even though you are just falling line by line, or note by note rather. Dum, boom, 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 boom. And he keeps going. And in doing so, Scott has the melody, Kevin on the beat, and then again we're left with Mitch and Kirsty, which was so typical of their arranging style of the time. Bass, beat, Scott on the melody, Kirsty and Mitch in the middle. Because of this chromatic falling line now, they can have relatively simple parts moving just in homophony and harmony with each other. Gloria, Gloria, as Scott is doing the famous that melisma. So a combination of a simple falling chromatic line step by step, the melody, that famous melisma, and then the other two parts in Kirsty and Mitch. Their parts can seem quite free because a combination of all these things gives us harmonic interestingness, chromatic bass line, rhythmic interestingness, polyphony, counterpoint between all of them, and then to top it all off we have percussion at the bottom with Kevin. And then moving into this unison line, that's always quite a bold move because suddenly everything you've been hearing and listening has just become merged into one. I didn't notice this the first time round, but listening again, Avi drops down the octave first and then they split into harmony.
In excelsis Deo.
I thought that was Scott. It looked like he was singing Kirsty's note, and I was thinking, this is not a voice of Scott I've heard before. Sorry, one more time, and tell me that does not look like Scott. Maybe when I edit this, I will just zoom in on Scott's face.
excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo.
Come to Bethlehem and see.
Lovely, another Avi solo. I was thinking about the choreography they have here, roughly a V formation. They're just rotating. It's really nice, really simple, very kind of fitting of the Christmas spirit. Give everyone a chance. Give everyone a chance. More like inclusion, inclusivity. The main things from that previous section we heard, other than Scott transforming into Kirsty for a second.
Oh, shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains prolong?
Avi having a drone note. The harmony has gone back to being much more simple, much less modern. To make things a little bit more interesting for him, he is changing up his rhythms. Dum, bum, bum. Avi's part is quite mad in all of it. And again, in the Gloria melismas that we get now, we can hear Avi is not there. They are singing in this almost archaic sounding parallel motion.
In excelsis Deo.
Avi joins in, they're all singing homophonically. The harmony is just being jazzed up. It's like they have a scale, a slider, a jazz slider, and they've just gone straight up. Next time round, bass part moving around, and now we get some more syncopated rhythms.
In excelsis Deo.
Come to Bethlehem.
And a modulation here. Again, who's expecting that? I wasn't.
Come to Bethlehem and see him whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee, Christ the Lord, the newborn King.
In excelsis Deo. Gloria.
In excelsis Deo.
No, if there are so many changes, I will lose my trail of thought. Main point from the previous part, Kevin joining in for a bit of that enriched sound purely from the harmony standpoint. That's not him. Is it? No, that has to be Kirsty. Deo, do, 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 do. Oh, so he's down there, and again, putting dissonance into this chord. Really good blend, though. I love it when it's really difficult to discern who is singing which part. And I want to highlight the importance of Scott's part here as well. Of course, he's singing it in a belted chest voice, a bit more of that strained sound, which really does contribute a lot to the fullness of the sound. It's got its rhythmic ch 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 ch, keeping things moving. I really like how full the sound is here. When you have Avi belting up with again, almost like a drone, inverted, really cool arranging, really good example of counterpoint polyphony. All right, then we had another change. How long's left? About 45 seconds left, so I will play to the end now.
In excelsis Deo.
Angels we have heard.
Angels we have heard on high. Angels we have heard. Oh, yada yada yada. Angels we have heard on high. Angels we have heard on high. Angels we have heard on high. Oh, in excelsis Deo.
Well, that was not like any angels we have heard on high I have ever heard before. Really cool fusion of, I don't know, old and new, past and present maybe.
Angels we have heard.
The effects that we're hearing, it sounds like a very subtle multiplication essentially of Scott's voice, some slight studio reverb on there. Same with Kirsty.
Angels we have heard on high.
This is so redolent of a lot of the popular music at this time. I've recently done a video, on Pentatonix, and they were covering Rather Be by Clean Bandit. And a lot of you in the comments told me that was the sort of music they were listening to at the time. They've obviously just gone, I want to get something like this in here, which is, again, quite daring if you're doing a very traditional carol. Really cool, though. By this point, at the end of it, again, based on my Pentatonix experience, I feel like this is something that they did a lot. It was part of their style. They would create a section of a song that is not really related to the original song at all. It's related a little bit, but overall, if you just showed a clip of that, which I'll do to you now, if you're walking down the street and I just play this to a stranger and say, what song is this? No one will know it's Angels We Have Heard on High. And in doing so, as long as it blends naturally into the original song, which is what they're so good at, moving in and out of these kind of different paradigms, I think it really just increases the size of the canvas that they are working on. You know, they've broken the mold, if you will, now. There's just a lot more artistic freedom for them to really do what they want to do. Yeah, really creative and interesting arrangement. Both arrangements that we saw, O Come Emmanuel and Angels We Have Heard on High. And now we are going to watch the live performance of Angels We Have Heard on High. So if you want to watch that with me, head on over to the link in the pinned comment. And if not, well, thank you as always for watching. As I mentioned before, longer videos don't tend to do well for me. So I'd appreciate if you could help push this video out on the algorithm, interact with it, like it, leave a comment. If you don't want to write any words, let's just go with any sort of Christmas emoji you can think of. Snowflake, snowman, Santa, Christmas tree. I'd like to see the comment sections full of them, and I will see you in the next one.